We are the Undivided Bridge Podcast, a congregation of young voices from the neighborhoods of Chicago who wants to close the gap between people who may never cross paths otherwise. As the modern world continues to change rapidly, we must adapt together as a city. So, on this podcast, we have conversations about anything that affects our everyday life, how we eat, how we learn, how we create, and how we plan for the future. So, join us on this journey as we discover more about the communities around us and to do our part to talk solutions for the greater good. Hi guys, welcome back to the Undivided Bridge. My name is Keishjuan.
And I'm Philissa.
And today we are reviewing a little bit more into our topic called Tale of Two Cities. Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, please introduce yourselves. It's a pleasure having you guys here this morning.
Yes.
Would you like to go first? Since
No,
you're
ladies first. Please,
okay. Thank you for having me. My name
No
is
problem.
Athena Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Oak Park Regional Housing Center.
Adam Alonso, CEO of Build.
Yes, we want to thank you for taking y'all times out of y'all busy schedule to sit here
Seriously.
with us. We already know y'all up and at 'em. So we wanted to start with our topic, which would be...
So I have this pulled up right here, and I want to get into it really quick, real short. So, what are some signs of division in Austin and Oak Park, and how do you address those life's work?
Ladies first.
So there are multiple signs. There's a huge difference between Austin and Oak Park. Mm-hmm. Of course, starting with the barrier, what people see as the barrier, which is Austin Boulevard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as you approach Austin Boulevard, whether you're driving from the east going west or driving from the west heading east, once you get to Austin Boulevard, it's a very noticeable difference. Mm-hmm. The difference starts with the trash accumulation. The difference starts with how some of the properties are being kept up. So that's some of the notable differences between Oak Park and Austin,
Yes.
or the city of Chicago at that border.
Yes.
So those are some things that we could easily address, which is some of the things that Oak Park Regional Housing Center has identified, which we have been, striving to work towards our idea of what we call blurring the border, so that it doesn't appear as a border between two cities, right? Figuring out how we can partner with the city of Chicago side and the Oak Park community side along that Austin Avenue border, just to clean up. Something as easy as cleaning up the trash from both sides, and then working with property owners that are on both sides so that the one street could look like it belongs to one community. So,
Yes.
That's the beginning. What would you like to add?
Well, thank you. Well, I think one of the other noticeable differences is the lack of supermarkets and stores to buy your fresh fruits and vegetables and to buy groceries, right? And if you think about many of the Austin residents cross over into Oak Park to go shopping because they're right, and you know why? Because there's not much here. You have a lot of corner stores here, which you don't necessarily have in Oak Park, and it's unfortunate that there's I'm grateful for the push for the gardens and the fresh fruits and the vegetables and people really coming together as an Austin collective for that. It's empowering, it's great, but why was that? Why did that come to pass, right? It's in response to a need. It's in response to things that may not be, that are absent here in the neighborhood. And, not having, a big Jewel or a Mariano's or any of these other big stores where you can come and get everything you would possibly want, it's not here. So that I think is, I'm grateful for, our young people who are growing in our small farm that we have here, growing vegetables and engaging the community and our seniors to come and harvest and be a part of that. And now with the farmers market coming online here, these are all great initiatives, and it's actually been started by young people who who've said, hey, we want to do something. Yes. And I'm grateful for that energy and grateful for what they're trying to do, because it's taking action in your own neighborhood, in your own community.
Yeah.
I want to follow up with that question with another one. What does community mean to you guys?
Yeah.
Because I will say that I am an Epson fellow. Shout out the Epson Institute. They taught us what it means to create and maintain a beloved community. So, once more, what does that mean to you? What does a community mean to you?
For me personally, community means your tribe. Community means those that come together to address and deal with issues collectively. So community can be your household, your block, your neighborhood, your precinct, that's all community. And one of the things that when I look at the differences between Oak Park and Austin, Oak Park comes together as a community to bring their resources together.
I agree.
I don't support the idea that Austin doesn't have resources. Austin is resource rich.
There we go.
I believe that is how we need to come together better in Austin to secure that community, right? We come together, pool all the resources together, develop a better sense of community. That's just how I see it.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And community, I think, for me also, thank you, all of that. And I would add that it's neighbors looking out for each other, right? That we all care about each other, and that there's a shared sort of set of values that we all uphold and believe in. And, you know, as the young people, and obviously through the work that we do is with young people, but community is when you show value and that you value your young people, and so you have the opportunities and resources for them, because you know that is the next generation, that's the future, that's the change, it's all that we are hopeful for, right? And as a parent, right, as a father, that's what when you have kids, that's what you want. You're hoping for them to do better and more than what you did, and so you pour into them. And I think community includes exactly as Athena said. It's in your home. Community starts there. It's your block. It's your next door neighbors, and it kind of spans out. And I think for Bill, we try to build community in those ways by bringing lots of different folks together. And there are lots of people in our neighborhood, right, who constitute the community. But to your point, I think, is do you feel community, right? And
Thank you.
there's a feeling behind it. It's palpable, and sometimes it's easy to describe, and sometimes it's not. But it's a feeling that you get when you know, you're walking down the street, and the safe passageways are waving, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" You know, and we're always talking about those chickens over there and that rooster crowing all morning long. Letting everyone know he's up. And just what's happened through the day, and talking about what's happening every day. So that to me feels like community. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm a stickler for community and unity. I'm an advocate for it, so therefore I love how y'all, touched on that. But I wanted to get more into like the feelings. You did mention feelings. So I wanted to know, what was your initial feelings, starting your journeys in helping the community? Like, what fuels you guys to continue to, help the community out?
You guys have been at it for a while. You guys
a long time. I heard y'all the big
you
ones.
guys are the best to do it in your respective.
Long time, Athena.
Yes. Actually, so my beginning to work in community, it came through grief. I had a son by marriage who was a victim of gun violence. That's why June 4th is special to me. So with that aside, that pushed me out to try to figure out, like, all of a sudden was like, okay, something needs to happen. And what can happen? And then prior to that, my own personal situation, arriving in the space of housing, because my husband passed away, I couldn't figure out, like what to do with all this rental housing. I need help. How do I, do certain things? So, those situations in my personal life led me and pushed me to wanting to do more and wanting to see better for other individuals who may or may not be in my particular situation at the time. And so with that said, it just it keeps me constantly pushing to help others and to do better for others.
Yes, thank you for being vulnerable in that situation.
So, and so, because you asked for feelings, right?
Yes.
So
I'm all about
so that's what brought the feelings.
Yes.
That's what brought the feelings out. And then, back to the community piece. So, last weekend, where I live, there's a lot of trees, and a tree fell in my driveway. Sound like a truck ran into my house. And so, because it busted one of the windows. but the community was everybody on the block came out and started like trying to move the branches, and you know the guys, they were pulling the glass out and that was touching because it helped me see community and realize that community was there.
Yes.
Shout out to them.
That's
I know
love.
y'all live.
So you
Shout
asked
out
for
to y'all.
feelings.
Yes, I love the feelings.
My feelings, I think. I know.
Open up. Let's see.
My feelings started when I was in college, actually, and I was at the University of Chicago, and I lived like a mile off campus, and I remember walking all the time, and there were always people asking for money, and there were a lot of homeless individuals, and I just thought, wow, here, in Hyde Park, there's definitely wealth, right? But then just literally right outside the university walls, there's like a whole other world. That's literally night and day.
Yes.
And I was born and raised in a church my whole life, and I was a poor broke student, but I had $2. Here's $2.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine and I were like, well, this isn't sustainable. Like, what's really happening? How do we get to the root cause? Well, we were young and dumb, and so we started a campus organization called the Giving Tree to help homeless individuals, but more importantly is to bring awareness to the campus, because we knew there was folks with money who were like, here's money, we'll cook, we'll do whatever, what do you need, but it was just not give me your resources, let me give them out to the people who need them, but also how can you be a part of the solution, and how do we work instead of just walking by and not engaging someone. How was your day, how's it going, talk to them. And we used to, so we had a co-op on campus that would make food, and we'd go to Lower Wacker Drive back in the day when it was like everyone lived in Lower Wacker Drive.
Can I interrupt you really quick?
Yeah.
Was it still hard to navigate Wacker Drive once it goes now?
It was, I think it's easier today.
Oh yeah, it's easier today
If
because
it's hard, you didn't know it back
right,
then.
because there's lighting down there.
It wasn't lighting.
There's signals, there's lights. Then there were no lights. It was like dark. It was like that was like there was the club called the Music Box back in my day that was down there.
Yeah, look, I'm just saying it was a whole underground.
It was underground.
It was underground, and
you can get in trouble down there for real.
For real. And I remember meeting two individuals, John and Bill, who had been homeless together, and so we'd bring food, and I just started talking to them, and learned that they had families, they had whole rich lives before they were where they were, living under Lower Wacker Drive, drinking all day. And again, in my sort of how I was brought up, I was like, hey, do you want to come to my house? And I brought these two dudes who smelled like, it was rough. And I was, do you guys want to come to my house? You can spend the night. It was my mom's house, not my house.
Oh, not mom's
my
house.
mom's like,
I know mine was sitting there like this.
Concerned.
And my brother was like, get them out. And I was like, Jesus said, right? So we all went to the same church, heard the same messages. But what I learned in that, so they came, what I learned though is that they woke me up at like 4 First of all, my family who was all freaked out. You have two strangers, they're homeless, they might kill us. It's like, why do you think a homeless person's gonna kill you? They're like, basic needs like food, water. But the other thing I learned that night was that they were alcoholics who started getting the trembles at like 4 a.m. They're like, you have to take us back. And I'm like, why? They're like, I need to, when the liquor store opens at 5. And I was like, wait, what?
That reality check is just
right. And that was a lesson, but my heart bleeds
in the right
for
place.
them. Was in the right place, and they weren't gonna like live in my house. I mean, in my head, I probably had a fantasy that they would, and my mom was like, great, live here and get your life right. But that didn't happen. But I stayed connected with them all through college. I'd just go down there, we'd sit and talk, and I learned so much from them as men, as homeless men, as just people, right? And when you realize the humanity that we all share, it doesn't matter how you look or smell, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter that you have an addiction. When you can get to the heart of people and that sharing, and people are like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go talk to Bill and John. They're like,
why are you still talking to them?
Why are you still talking to them?
I already know it.
It wasn't transactional, right? Like, here's food and I'll see you next Sunday. It was like, I've always believed that you have to get to know folks, because behind whatever you see on the front end, there's always a story, right? could be deep, could be things you don't even know, is what you shared, just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So that was my journey from college, and then my first job was working with kids in an after-school program, and then that was like the beginning of the end, I think, for me, in terms of always going to be in the space. Every time I tried to leave youth services,
we got another job for you.
Yeah.
God's like, no,
for real.
that's not your job.
It's a domino
This
effect.
is your job, right? Come back. So.
So I noticed we got some religious folks in here. So what does faith mean to you
Only
guys?
one. No, just kidding.
She said, "Don't leave me out here."
In the name of Jesus, girl, let's do this.
Seriously, what does faith mean to you guys? I've had this conversation with lots of people. I've asked them what does loyalty mean to them, what does love mean to them, what does faith mean to them, what
Well,
is optimism?
faith for me is trust, believing, and knowing. I wake up every morning and know I'm the first fruit, God's choice, because I'm my parents' first child. The first of everything is God's first fruit. I know that I'm God's beloved. That's right. Get some of that. You need some of this to rub off on you.
There you go.
You have to know, trust, and believe. And it's challenging. Don't get me wrong. It's very challenging because the things that we deal with every day in this society, everything is not as... We want people to think that we're all the same. But you better believe if you and I walk through the door, the first thing you're going to see is that black woman with that man over there. That's how they're going to see us. But and so that's the challenge. But when you have that faith and trust to believe, and you have to stay at it. My mother just recently passed. So I know I'm constantly dealing with something.
Yeah.
And when that happened, my mother was the rock. She was the one in the house that prayed for everybody. And then I was like, oh, woe is me. I'm trying to adjust to her not being here because she lived with me for the last 5 years. And then I realized, okay, it's time for me to get in that word and be the next one to have that faith, trust, and belief to keep it going.
That's the oldest
So you
job.
Pass the torch. It's not like I wanted to. I'm true to this, not new to this.
So
is what I'm
the faith is knowing that you can trust and believe that something is going to happen.
Yes.
So first fruit, well, you're the first fruit of the Lord. I am the best fruit of the Lord. 'Cause I'm the last child.
I thought you were about to say the middle child. My bad.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are in the middle. Sorry, children.
I'm the
You'll
king of
never-
the crop.
Yeah,
For real.
there you go. But I think faith for me has always been believing in what you know to be true, even if you don't see it. Right, and it's that faith and belief. And I was raised, because my mom is white, and so I was raised Southern Baptist. But my dad is
Southern
Mexican, from
hospitality.
Mexico. I was raised Catholic and Southern Baptist at the same
Oh,
time.
wow.
That's different.
Very different. And I started, I feel like, with every religion and whatever, but I think the core of all of that, at the end of the day, and my dad said it best, was always like, when I would kick and scream, I don't want to go to church, I gotta sit, stand, kneel, like it's aerobics in there, Dad. He's like, seriously.
I'm exercising.
I'm
I'm
exercising, I need to pay
Whole
attention.
routine.
He's like, all that God has blessed us with, you can't give him 1 hour of your day. And I was like,
I would have shut me over immediately.
No, for real.
And he's like, so you go to church with me and you just sit there and you pray for 1 hour. 1 hour is what you're giving to God. And I was like, I'm the baby of the family, so I'm always trying to do what I want to do. But that shut me up, and I learned that here's, we were poor, we didn't have much money. He was the only one who worked, and he believed every day. He gave to that church religiously, and I'm like, man, you're giving money, and we're like, we don't have money, but it was the faith. So I have examples of that from both my mom and my dad's sides of the family and my parents. So. And the work that we do, right? We get up every day. If you turn on the news, it's horrific, right? And they're just painting this picture that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, essentially. But
I don't watch the news.
and we had a young person who shot and killed yesterday, and that was one of our kids. And it's this morning my colleague came and she said, "Man, what are we supposed to do?" I said, "Double down. You can't give up, right?" Like, it's sort of that starfish theory, right, where they wash up on the shore and that little kid's walking and tossing one back in the ocean. They're like, man, you're never going to save them all. Yeah, but it matters to this one. So every young person that we have an opportunity to connect with, you have to have faith to believe that their future is bright, even when everything around them may look dark. because someone's got to hold that hope and encourage them and be there for them.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys because you guys during the pandemic did provide me a job. That was like one of my first ever jobs in nonprofit, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So
Awesome.
I work here too.
yeah,
See,
look
Love
at
you
us.
guys.
Excellent.
Who would have thought?
Yes.
Who would have thought?
Okay, I want to get into y'all little lives a little bit. What does
Did you say love life?
No, little
Oh,
life.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow, it's
Love, no.
this.
Y'all work life.
Okay.
But I want to know, what does a day-to-day day look like? Like, what do you do?
You go first.
One of my favorite questions.
Well, the days look different, but I would say my days are full. So starting at 8:30, ending at about 6 between, and most of this is fun. So thank you for this. Like, this is a break from that life, and it's a breath of fresh air to sit with young people. But it's, talking to funders, following with meetings with our teams, figuring out sort of the next step. What else do we need to do? How else are we responding? And it varies from day to day, and so you have to be able to quick switch a hat, and you're talking to a funder who wants to give money because that will impact the center or the youth.
Yes.
So you have to prep and be ready for that. And then I know when we were fundraising for this building, every half hour all the way through lunch was filled, and I was like a robot, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, okay, who's next, and I
know that feeling.
I hated being a robot, but for me the greater good was to have this. So I was prepared to be a robot, to know that it would have an end in sight, which we're almost there,
And justify the means.
exactly.
Sacrifice.
But it takes, but it's exhausting too, right?
Yes.
Like, the number of gray hairs I have now is not what I had a year ago. Right?
That's wisdom, though.
Oh, thank you, wisdom.
Wisdom
Man, I'm
hairs.
smart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Athena and I both are smart.
Yes.
So it just looks different every day.
Yeah.
How about you, Athena? What does your day look like?
Well, my
You're at the
days
spa.
start.
You got the wisdom here, so you need to tell us.
Right.
Yeah.
My days start at 3:45 a.m.
Oh, no.
That's
Still up at
that's
that
my
time.
day. Starts at 3:45 a.m., but my work day starts at 7 a.m. because I do a check-in with 2 of my lead staff people. Every morning I do a check-in. I have 4, so I check in with them. But then after that, because I have 3 major projects that are happening simultaneously, my days are filled Monday through Thursday, back to back, meeting with people, talking to people, because fundraising is a big key of what we do.
Yeah.
So not only these major projects are we raising money for, but we're raising money for our general operations, raising money for endowments, raising money for special projects that might be happening. So we have to constantly get out there and raise things. And I wasn't as fortunate as Adam to have an agency that's has notoriety. Oak Park Regional Housing Center, even though it's 51 years old, is still in its infancy. A really
That's crazy. You said
Yeah.
that. That's older than me. You talking about
Literally.
well, it's in its infancy because of the type of work we do. Housing has never really been on the radar for many people. Housing is really just now.
Surprising.
It
All
is,
the
isn't it?
setbacks they had back in the day.
Right.
You literally got a story about homelessness, and that's what?
Yeah.
Well, but there's a difference. So homelessness is of need, and housing is for those that we have to prepare to get to that need.
Right.
And so there's a vast difference. It's a huge spectrum. And the end that we're on is really helping people get to stable rental, get to acquire home ownership,
Steps.
through financial education. And then our other program, residential councils, working with all our residents.
I need to come over to where y'all at.
Cultural impact work, which we're starting now. So that's why I say in the infancy and trying to grow it beyond. So it's one thing to have an agency, but it's another thing to try to grow it and expand it to really meet the need to give the communities that you're trying to serve. So we're 51 years old, but it was always such a small number of people. We see through the agency we have about 11,000 people that try to reach out to us through all of our platforms, but we only can service about 3,000 of those. So I'm in the mode of trying to expand so that I can meet that gap between 3,000 and 11,000.
Yeah.
In addition to all the other big projects we're working on. So for my role as an ED, it's constantly meeting people, talking to people, letting people know what we do.
Yeah. I had a question about these fundraisers. Like, I want to know what they consist of because I haven't, really participated.
That was literally what I was about to ask.
I'm intrigued. So, what does y'all fundraisers look like?
So, so it's multiple types of things you do to raise funds for an agency, and that could be anything from having an actual fundraising event to actually doing annual giving campaigns to having one-on-ones to create individual giving donors. So it's multiple different platforms of fundraising that you would do for an agency. Let's talk to the man that has all the money.
No, well, Athena said it right best. Like, that's really broken down in those areas. Like, for us, our largest single event is the gala that we do. It's our showcase for young people. We've been hosting it for the last 3 years at Navy Pier. So it's anywhere from 700 to 900 people who are there, and that's an expensive event to do, but it does bring in gross just under $1 million, and that money that we raise that way is what we call general operating. So there's no one who says how we can spend it.
Right.
So if we wanted to go and supply emergency housing and pay for someone overnight in a hotel because they're unsafe, then we can take from that pot and pay them there, right? So, or it's to fill in all to your point, the gaps, it fills in the gaps. But fundraising is a non-stop. So Athena and I both are the master fundraisers for organizations, and if we don't raise the funds, the organizations don't get the money, right? Yeah, so, and it's, I think I learned a lot about individual donors, right? And it's not like, hey, great to meet you, you love what we're doing, can you give me $1 million, right? Sometimes this is like dating. I gotta date you, I gotta take you to lunch, then you're gonna come out for a visit, and then you're gonna be like, well, tell me about this. And I'm gonna spend a whole other time telling you about that, and then you're gonna be like, tell me about this over here, right? So before we before we even get a gift from a donor, right? Because they care about where their money is going, and so they want to do their homework, their due diligence, but that's our time also to give them what they want and to show them who we are. And sometimes they want us to ask them for money. Other times they will say, this is what I'm prepared to do. And then, thank you for your money, but now I got to stay in touch with you too, right? So it is a cultivation, it's a stewardship process, and so we're grateful for all of our donors, we're grateful for the time we spend, but that's also part of the work of raising dollars, and so it's a process.
And to his point, that process, it can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. Stewarding that relationship before you see any fruit.
Before you even do a project.
And then you have to maintain that after that first gift. So
not like that.
that's why
it's a relationship, and it really is. And for those donors that really love the work that we're doing, they make it easy to be in relationship usually, and so that's what we do, is we're in relationship with them.
That's dope.
So our motto, believe it or not, we have these things called like mother agencies, family agencies, and I heard you guys mention agency, but I know you guys are nonprofits. So what would you classify you guys? Like, would you consider yourself like a mother nonprofit, a family nonprofit? And what that means to me is, like, when I think of mother agencies, they're usually like the resting place for everybody who needs to go and outsource opportunities and get network to different agencies and other agents and all that. Whereas like family is kind of like everybody's already there, everything's in the house, everybody already has the agents and all the clients, so they're not necessarily outsourcing their peoples to go to different agencies or go to different events because they already have it under their umbrella. You know what I mean?
So I think I
it's
do
a little
love your
confusing,
loaded questions.
Yeah, it is a loaded question because, again, we offer specific services. So financial education, home ownership education and counseling, foreclosure prevention, rental education and counseling, rental referrals, anything around housing. But if we get a client through our rental or any other program that needs services that we don't offer, then we will refer them out.
Okay.
So if so we do refer some out to some some other agencies that we have partnerships with.
Actually answers my question.
Okay.
It was a little hard to articulate, but that pretty much answered my question. Like, do you guys specialize in, like, we got that, or I know somebody? You know what I mean? That's in short what I'm asking.
So basically, it was asking like about their partnerships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long way though.
Yeah, no, but that was a good way. And I think many of us now, a lot of nonprofits, I think, are always in partnership with each other because once upon a time, in the funding world, they said, we won't give you money anymore until you partner with people. So they sort of forced partnership, which we didn't always have to, you don't always have to force us to do that, because what we realize is that when you think of like a web, a spider's web, right, it's all connected in different ways. And we are a piece, and we may need to be connected over here. So we're going to build that bridge ourselves, stay connected. Similarly to what Athena's doing, like we don't do housing, but Athena does housing, right? And so that's the connection. So that's what all the agencies, most of us do. So we have services in-house, and then things we don't do, we'll connect with our partners who do that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So real quick, usually everybody does this in the beginning, but I hate sticking to a script. It's just so weird. I want to have a check-in question, icebreaker.
In the middle.
Yeah. Because why not? Everybody usually does that to thaw it out, but like I feel like we already warmed up enough.
Yeah.
So I ask everybody this, and everybody's like, huh? What do you mean? So for $2 million with all the equipment and everything that you would need, would you rather climb Mount St. Helens or Mount Everest?
That's so random.
Yeah, I got to.
So random.
You guys talk about doing so much for the community and making a difference. I feel like that definitely will, like, in terms of...
I'm sorry.
Mount St. Helens or Mount Everest?
Yes, for $2 million, which one would you scale?
You mean like they would give us $2 million?
If you were to put your flag, if you were to put the Build Chicago flag on top of the peak for $2 million, all equipment included, they'll drive you there. If you end up freezing to death, they'll definitely collect your body off the mountain.
No, they don't. Oh, they will?
Yeah, it's included. No, in this case, it's included. I feel bad for everybody.
Body collection.
I'm screaming.
Yeah. We're gonna give you a nice little burial, all that.
You can donate your organs too.
Yeah.
I have to.
We're gonna live stream it too. Yeah, you have to. You have to. We're gonna live stream it and everything. So you're gonna help the community with the live.
I'm not doing Everest. I'll do Mount St. Helens.
Why?
For real?
I will, because it's not as tall as Everest. And I've watched one too many Everest documentaries. And
I'm not educated.
Hell no, it is ice.
I saw people frozen. I'm like, oh my god,
there's now a traffic jam, right, getting to the peak because there's so many people who go.
They're literally in single file line.
Waiting to like take one step, and then you're there for hours. No, I'm good.
That's too much.
I'm glad you figured out why I asked that question.
I probably would have done the opposite just for the challenge. Just for the challenge, just to see if I can jump over those people that's in line.
You say I work smart, not hard. I'm here for the glory. So I'm glad that you guys answer those questions that way, which brings me to my next question. How do you guys work? Like, what's your productivity like? I know, again, I just mentioned that you're more of a glory type person. Like, I'm here for the glory, and you're here because you work smart, not hard. And the reason why I'm saying is because listen. If you said you would rather climb Mount St. Helens, then that would mean that you're not willing to go up to that peak, because Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. So for $2 million, I'm climbing less. I see that as work smart, not hard. For you, you're like, I'm here because I'm tough. I'm like, why wouldn't you? So with that being said, yeah, I want to know how do you guys do work?
Well, that was a setup.
No, for real.
Well, I already said my day started 3:45 in the morning.
She ready to take on the day.
And I make sure from 3:45 to 6:45 that I get in my guide, I get in my cats, I get in my house, and I get in my start for the day. 7 o'clock is on. 7 o'clock to 7 in the evening. That's my work day.
I know it sounds like I asked the same question, but trust me, I did not.
I got my other question. My question gonna be easier.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Do I really ask that many hard questions?
Yes.
I think I similar to Athena. I think that we both work hard, and because of our hearts and our dedication to the work that we do and seeing the bigger picture, and whether that's a Mount St. Helens or Mount Everest, the reality is it's the bigger picture, and it goes back to everything you asked us about faith, about all these pieces, right? we work hard because of the dedication we have in our hearts, and we will walk through all of the tough times that we've had together, because both of us no one hands anything to you on a platter. I'm like, here, can I feed you? No. This is some real shit happens.
I have to tear down walls.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can see it in your eyes. You guys don't play no games.
No,
y'all shouldn't.
no, and I think when you get to a certain, because when I was your youthful age,
You're still young, but
I was not in that space to know that I had any sense. But and no offense to you all, because you have plenty of sense. I didn't at that age. But in my 51 years now, like, I will fight.
Yes.
And I know what's right, and I've been through enough to know that where I'm willing to draw a line in the sand and not cross it, or where I draw a line in the sand for others, like, don't cross this, because then you're going to start something, and then it's going to be on. So, and as the baby of the family, God's best fruit, when they're like, oh, you can't do that, oh, it's impossible, the other side clicks into my hands is like, excuse my language, but fuck you, I'm going to show you. And we got this. Period.
You can't do it, not me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so I have a question. So y'all know we youth-based. What ways can the youth help you guys in y'all mission?
Yeah,
because we want to get engaged more. You know?
Well, you want to...
Well, yours is easier because your everything is about you.
I think, it's always about having young people share their ideas. And what I love about young people's ideas is sometimes they're so big and out there, and like the process of actually getting there, I'm like, man, I know they don't know, but I love that you shoot here, and this is where you want to be. The thing that I would say is that to get here is all the hard work that we just described. And so what I love is to see young people who don't give up at the hard work, because it's easy to be like, oh, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
And like, no, that's it. And then they step away from whatever that may be. But I appreciate young people learning that all the hard work you have to put in. And I grew up in a time where it's quote unquote, you pay dues, meaning you do the hard work, the hard labor. You're not better than XYZ over there. Worry about yourself, work hard, and your work will speak for itself, right? So I appreciate young people whose work speaks for itself, and they move down that path.
Yeah. So,
what about you, Athena?
So, in the space of housing, I would like to see young people who are able or have an intrigue about housing. So, everybody, the reason I said, nobody ever paid attention to housing before because people took housing for granted. Oh, that's my apartment, that's an apartment, that's a house. But people took it for granted to the point where people didn't realize that you need a house or you will become homeless.
Very true.
And homelessness has multiple different levels.
Right.
But people just took for granted that structure that's there. So I would like to see, I would like to educate more young people around financial education and housing. Not so much home ownership, but just being a good, you have to be a good renter. And then from being a good renter to becoming a homeowner, if that's what you desire, or from a homeowner to how to be a real estate investor or developer. I would like to have young people and help them find an interest there, because the interest is not there because again it's taken for granted.
Yes.
Good job.
So that perfectly explains why everybody's been
I
struggling.
take Mount every single
See, I knew I was onto something. And that also explains why the youth, we have problems with recruiting and retaining youth, because exactly what you just said.
Yeah, what you said. It's a journey. You just can't get to the finish line quick. People love to skip steps, but when you skip steps, you have to start back at step one anyway.
Thank you.
So since we're talking about journeys, I think this one has now come to an end.
Yes.
So
It was wonderful having you guys.
Thank you guys for having us. This was great, and you guys are doing good things. Appreciate it.
We get it from you guys.
Yeah. Good leaders.
Thank you.
So with that being said, I'm Keishjuan,
I'm Philissa.
and this is Undivided Bridge. We'll see you guys next time.